All right, everyone, welcome back to Tampa Bay Cop Talk, and another rare occasion for us to have a good and proper moan as Southampton beat Liverpool by 1-0. One Danny Ings very early 0-0, which means now Liverpool might go into the Manchester United game in 2 weeks in second place against first place Manchester United, and it has us all feeling very, very down on the back of a week where Liverpool have managed to score. Wait, before we get there, introduce yourselves. I'm Jordan.
I'm David.
I'm Andrew.
Darius.
And there's four of us, but David, how many goals have we scored in the last week in the league?
We've scored one in the last 3 games.
And prior to that, how many goals did we score in that game?
7. So.
Right? So on average,
they wasted them.
2 goals a game.
Yeah, right? That's excellent. But in all seriousness, 1-0 to Southampton, the first place we're going to start. And it's a question because I feel like the answer to this, we'll all have a similar one. And then we'll dive into that answer. David, credit to Southampton?
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. They had a plan. They executed it. So, yeah, credit to them. They get the goal, which on our better days, it never even comes close to being a goal. But they get a goal, and then they did what they needed to do. So, credit to them. Yeah. But we were shit.
Yeah. Yes. So, Andrew, because Klopp said in his post-game press conference, credit to the effort from Southampton, and I have to agree, they wanted it more. They showed the desire, and they fought for it. But, Andrew, credit to Southampton, or were we shit, as David said?
I mean, if I'm polite, I'll say credit to them, but no, we were just really bad. Calls went our way against their way, or whatever that phrase is. And then looking at the goal, I've seen the replay a few times now, and I'm looking at Trent, and it's like you saw how he moves his shoulder, like as if he's scared of the ball.
No, he thought he was going to chest it and just.
Yeah, is what I'm saying. Like it was almost as if the reason why I'm getting there, the reason why the only thing I can think of, the way he moved his body was like, oh, if the ball hits me here, it's going to be a handball and I'm going to give a penalty or something. Therefore, he tried to move it out the way because it's unnatural for him to just like maybe too fast or whatever to head it out of the way. It just, for me, it didn't make any sense. And it's like maybe a lapse in concentration or what. And then obviously that set the tone for the rest of his game, right? For the rest of the game for Trent, which, he was not the man of the match, the garbage man.
Yeah. Well,
he was the garbage man of the match. So that was quite frustrating. Yeah, but whatever. Southampton, you get your 3 points. You get your meme of him crying on the floor. Good for him.
Listen, I turned the match off before the second to last corner when Mane headed it over. I slammed shut my laptop, so I didn't see Ralph Hausenhudel crying until I unfortunately opened Instagram, to which then football Instagram inundated me with memes about Liverpool, and there's this man crying on the ground with all these different memes, and I'm like, okay, great, whatever. Hey, on one hand, salty about it. On the other hand, if beating us invokes that type of emotion, well,
there
then,
you go.
You know what? We must be some hot shit,
Yeah.
But anyways, on the goal, Trent, very sloppy. We will break into that and break that down. But the finish was superb. So in that light, Darius, you giving Southampton credit, or are we just shit?
I would say it's a little bit of both. Southampton at least played well enough in how they defended and creating enough chances and flustering the Liverpool back line, which, didn't have a single freaking center back there. But that all just kind of puts it into where I can say Southampton did good enough where I can't walk away from that game saying they stole 3 points. Like, no, they deserved it. But Liverpool certainly helped them and did not help themselves. I think it's interesting, we already brought up the Trent goal or the goal allowed that came on Trent's side. That Danny Ings goal was kind of emblematic of that performance and kind of how this month has gone for Liverpool, where it was just like on another day, that doesn't happen. It's one of your best players looking completely lost. And when you go back and look at it, it was not necessarily all his fault because Trent is covering 2 players, 1-on-2, on a free kick right on the edge of the box. that can't be by design. So it's not just his failure, it's a team failure, but because he's the best player who's also not been playing that great. You look at him and it's like, dude, really? But it was a team loss for Liverpool, but Southampton, credit to them, they took full advantage.
Yeah, I would pretty much echo what everyone said here. We obviously did not help them or help ourselves in regards to winning that match or make it really necessarily even tough on Southampton. However, they were throwing their body in the way of shots. They did take advantage of the opportunity they got. And to be fair, created a couple of other interesting opportunities that, they would say on their better day that they maybe even score. It was reminiscent to me of kind of the Watford 3-0 in that they had a couple of those breakaways where it was just like when the one where Allison comes flying out, if he just kicks it like even just, a little bit harder, that's 2-0. And then the one where the kid bends it wide around the outside, maybe if they're starting wingers in there, they could have finished. So they do get credit. And I do want to stress that the Ings finish is beautiful.
For the king of the crap goal, that was a pretty exquisite finish.
I mean, listen, man, first time out of the air, just having looked over your shoulder where the keeper is to lob it back post. That's
not Pickford. That's not tiny arms. That's actually a real man. Like, to get it over him, that's pretty impressive.
I wish we would have tested him a little bit, but I made a joke. I texted one of my English friends and said, "That's Fraser Forster out there in future England #1. How are we going to do this?" I forgot that he went down all those years ago and has since disappeared and doesn't exist anymore. But anyways, you touched on something in your answer, Darius, that I, in hindsight, and even in the moment when it was announced, we kind of had a little bit of a gripe with in our little group chat. Team selection. Darius, you brought it up. There was no center backs, and instead we put Henderson back there. In hindsight, do you think Jurgen Klopp's maybe looking back and going, I probably shouldn't have done that?
Well, they didn't get 3 points, so obviously, yes, he's going to look back and be like, probably didn't get it right today. But at the same time, the irony is, as much as we can say, oh, it's all about not getting the center backs in and need to go and buy somebody in January. Well, the defense wasn't the problem outside of one set piece. The issue was that the guys who were there in the midfield and the front three were all off. Everyone was off other than maybe you could say Robertson had a decent day. Nobody played well. And that's what's so frustrating about it. Like, the chances are there, and then rather than taking it on head on, everyone in the front three is like, nah, I need to pass it off, find the next guy. So it's not like I can look at it and say that the personnel was the issue. Maybe you can have a bit of an issue with Henderson being at center back rather than being in the midfield, which gives you a little bit more of that solidity and a little bit more of that dynamism when he gets the ball and then pushes forward. Oxlade-Chamberlain, I thought he was fine. Genie, he just doesn't lose the ball. He was about as steady as he always is. Thiago, yeah, that's not going to be his best game. Honestly, that might have been his poorest performance we're going to see for him in a Liverpool shirt. But when you put it all together, I can't really look at it and say, well, that's a poor team selection, because it's just guys who you would expect to play better who didn't. And I don't think it's necessarily because they were in the wrong positions or anything like that. I mean, this is what this team is going to look like. You're going to have central midfielders playing at the back. Like, that's what you're going to have to accept for Liverpool this season. So Henderson being back there at center back is no different in my mind than Fabinho being back there. It's the option you're going to go with because you feel like you have to. I don't think that game is any better if you have Nat Phillips in there. I don't think it's any better if you have Reece Williams in there. So by saying all that, I'm looking at it like, I can't blame the selection at all. It just had a bad day at the office.
Okay. But you touched on this. I want to bring this over to Andrew after my little diatribe here. Henderson, the midfield, the midfield wasn't great and Henderson was in the back. And the way I kind of look at it, and we all talk about it, Henderson is the glue of the team. And if we think about a football team as, like a circular object, the glue needs to be in the middle to hold it all together. The further back the glue is, the farther the other side of the circle is closer to falling apart. You know what I mean? Like, the glue isn't there. And you brought it up. The midfield was a bit disjointed. We had the 3 type of players that we want. Genie can play them all. We had a 6 in Thiago, and then we had the carrying midfielder that Genie would normally be in Oxlade-Chamberlain. But it was all just so spread out and distant that I can't help but feel that if Henderson was just moved into the central part of it, he could have held it all together a little bit better. And given that we have seen him play the younger center backs in games of similar ilk, I'm inclined to think it maybe had something to do with the midfield being so disjointed. But Andrew, what do you think? Henderson at center back causing the midfield to be disjointed, or as Darius says, the guys that we normally rely on to get the job done up front just didn't get the job done, so we really can't blame the team selection.
No, I mean, it's no coincidence that Salah and Trent didn't really play well when Jordan's not on that right-hand side. So for me, you're right. And it's weird because Jordan Henderson obviously has his critics and obviously has people that don't understand what he does and whatnot. And because of the stats are not there, it's not like he's a Lampard where he scores a bunch of goals and has a bunch of assists or whatever. And that's fine. Now, that being all said, though, you're right. Not only is he the heart of the team in terms of his leadership qualities, but yeah, for some reason, he's the engine of the team and he gets it going and moving and so on and so forth. So for me, I can only speculate as to why he was chosen to play center back. But for me, it's got to be this Villa game, right? So we have Villa in the FA Cup on Friday, right? And then after that, we have a week. We have 9 days until United. So for me, if you rest most of the players after today or after the Southampton game, you almost have 2 weeks, right? So for me, it's almost like maybe Klopp is mastermind this. It makes no sense because he risked 3 points, you would say, and obviously he lost the 3 points. But maybe he's masterminding ways so that he gets enough training time for some of these players. But also you got to look at another way too. Ox, it was his first start of the season. Okay. He had some couple cameos, but now 60 minutes will do him good because listen, we're going to need him for the rest of the season. Shaq, he's got a cameo. He'll probably play on Friday, I would imagine.
He got more than 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. Let's hope he doesn't get injured between now and Villa, right?
Yeah.
So, but that being said, and Thiago, this is his 3rd appearance. I mean, he played against a 10-man Chelsea in the first half until he got murdered by Richarlison in that tackle in the derby in October. So for me, it's you take those 2 things, 2 out of 3 of the midfield. That's 67% of nonsense of just extenuating circumstances. It's a big word for me, but so for me, it's just the team selection at the moment. Maybe you can argue that it was wrong because obviously we didn't get the result. But going forward, that's not a team that doesn't win us, 3 points, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
They're just those players are just maybe playing in the wrong positions at the moment.
Yeah,
and I think so. For me, Klopp, if he doesn't make 35 changes against Villa, I'll be very surprised. You can argue that we'll want to win that game because of the way we lost in the league, but I think Klopp has shown over the years since he's been here that he doesn't give a damn about the FA Cup.
Yeah,
neither do I. So, fuck it. At this moment, in this time, it's all about United. It's all about the running and so on and so forth. It's about that league and it's about the Champions League. So, if he says to himself, I'll give the boys a rest this time, that way we have a proper, winter training camp, but without the sexy, sunny location, I think that's what he's doing. At least that's what I hope, because I hope these motherfuckers get to work. They need to get to work on the training ground.
That's your favorite thing to say after a loss.
Motherfuckers need to get to work.
We're back in the lab.
Right.
Get after it.
But so here's you bring up something.
Wake up at 6 a.m. Get to work.
You bring up something interesting that somewhat contradicts the point of giving them break, is that the Villa game isn't necessarily even midweek. It's on the weekend. So David,
right.
I mean, here's the real question about the whole center back thing with Jordan Henderson back there. I mean, surely Reece Williams has played in Europe. He's played in Italy. Nat Phillips started away to City. I mean, surely
started against Spurs in the win.
Surely there's not really a good reason not to play a center back there instead of Jordan Henderson. David, what do you think?
I'm about to go on a thing. We're going to need a new call.
Well then, okay, so we're going to pause there. We'll go on a thing. Real quick, we are going to insert a little clip from our Miscellanies episode that we did on congestion fixture. which is rearing its ugly head for the rest of the year, by the way. And so we'll slide that in here for you to check out.
Now, you can, of course, then come back and say, well, we don't want to move the schedule because of TV money. But is someone really going to tell me that if we were to move the Euros and push them back and push next season's league start back, that the TV broadcasters would have an issue with that, especially this far in advance, 6 months to a year in advance? That is doable. It's when we have these late minute switches trying to move a game from a Saturday to a Sunday or Sunday to a Saturday, vice versa. That's where you can have a little bit of an issue as a broadcaster. But the broadcasters, as long as they have that content and know when it's going to be, they're going to build around it. So I don't really hear the argument that it's all on the broadcasters. I look at it and it's like, this is on FIFA, this is on UEFA, this is on the Premier League. They're the ones who need to be held accountable. Like the broadcasters are a small part of it, and they're a very annoying part of it. So to me, they're more of the straw, but they're not the whole load that's on the camel's back.
First of all, they didn't demonstrate any foresight in the development of the schedule. For crunching 3 internationals into these breaks when they had the international breaks, some of them which are meaningless games. Like, why are you making them play a friendly at all? They shouldn't play any friendlies in international football this year. And then you've got, on top of that, you could have done anything with the season. The NBA just released its schedule. It is 10 games lighter than a normal season. And it's going to happen a little bit differently in terms of travel because of COVID and different demands. So they adjusted to the situation. That's what you do when you're in a crisis, right? Like, you create something that is still dynamic and interesting and fun for the fan, but yet fits everything in a way that doesn't put the players and the staff at risk. They didn't do that. They just said, we're going to play the same amount of games. We're going to do the same amount of thing. We're just going to crunch it into this smaller time frame. Well, here we are. Now there's a problem. And he's right. It's the lack of governance by the Premier League, by UEFA, by FIFA.
And I think also they would be fine with it from the standpoint, if you came to them from the point of view of like, the product will be much better because all of the players will not be dropping like flies left and right. Like, the Premier League is not better for Joe Gomez not playing and Thiago being out and Virgil van Dijk being out. Now, granted, some of our injury situations are just unfortunate circumstances beyond even the COVID fixture congestion, but still the point stands. They're dropping like flies, and the product and the quality goes down because not even just those players are missing, but they aren't there to provide relief for the players that are playing. So there's that clip. Be on the lookout for that. It should be coming shortly. In our Miscellanies episodes, if you haven't been listening, we tend to be premonitious. Is that a word?
Prophetic?
Yes, prophetic. That's
it is now.
Premonitious is not a word. We are prophetic, though. So check it out. Do yourself a favor and find out what's going to happen in the world of football in the future. But David said he needed a brand new call. So now that you know how the sausage is made, and we had to do these calls separately, now that you know that,
Zoom.
Yes, you've seen like behind the curtain. The wizard is a short man. He's not a big face on a screen. It's just us. Anyways, David, you said you needed a new call. And the question was, Andrew brought it up. There's plenty of rest period coming up. So the idea of like rotating the center backs and keeping Nat Phillips and Reece Williams fresh for Villa is kind of counterintuitive. So don't you think, given that, and I'll set you up the same way I set you up before, Reece Williams played in Italy. Nat Phillips started away at City. Surely you can trust one of the two to slot in instead of having to put Jordan Henderson back there and lose all he does in the middle of the park. Surely.
Yeah,
Don't call me Shirley.
I'm very rarely disappointed with Jurgen Klopp and his decisions, but I really was today. For me, just like you said, if Reece Williams can play against Tottenham and against Harry Kane and Son, and they're supposed to be these big superstars, why can't he play against Danny Ings? If Nat Phillips can play against City, if he can play in a derby against Everton, why can't he play this game? And it's not, don't tell me it's because they've been not playing well. They've been perfectly fine. So the question then is why? And I think that he's essentially sacrificed this game because he wants to do that against United, but he doesn't want it to be the first time that he's done it. I can't think of another reason why he's done it, honestly. I don't think Jordan Henderson is particularly good in that position. Not that he was terrible today, but he wasn't great. He does keep Ings on side for the goal. And he doesn't bring to the game what you need him to bring to the game, which is, like you said, that glue guy, that centerpiece. To Andrew's point, you've got Thiago, who's on his third start ever for Liverpool, I think, and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who's on his first start of the season and who has been out for months. So you've got two guys that are shaking off the rust, and then Genie. And I like Genie, but is he necessarily the captain-like figure that Jordan Henderson is? No. And if you've got two guys that are this rusty and this out of kind of sync with the team, I think you need to have the captain right there alongside them, driving them, pushing them, controlling their movements, aiding them in everything that they do. We didn't have that. Thiago, for me, was bad. Like, I just was not impressed with his play at all. The midfield, I saw somebody on Twitter describe it as a car crash, and I thought, yeah, that's exactly right. And as good as Genie was, well, I shouldn't say as good as he was, as helpful.
Not terrible as he was.
Not terrible, as helpful as he was. Because really what he was doing most of the time when he was having good moments was helping people out. He was bailing guys out for giving away the ball foolishly. I mean, I don't know, how many passes did you count where they're just like kicking the shit out of it at each other? And you're like, what kind of pass is that? What's he supposed to do with that? Balls just bouncing all around, not on the ground, not to someone's chest, or it's just bouncing all over the place. So they can't control it and they're losing it easily. And it was just sloppy. I just thought the whole thing was sloppy. Ox, I told you guys, I don't even think he deserves to get credit for an appearance because the man was a ghost, in my opinion. He was a ghost of himself. From what we know of that player, of what he can do, that was not Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain to me. It was shite. Trent is a massively important player for us, and with the rest of the back four in the condition that it's in. Let me put it this way. Robbo is not – he's a creative force on the ground going forward, and if he gets into the final third, he can kill other teams with his crossing, right, and his ability to thread balls through. But Robbo's not going to create for you elsewhere on the pitch, generally speaking. And in the past, when Trent would struggle, you'd always have Van Dijk around. Van Dijk can create. Van Dijk can ping a 40-yard ball. He can draw players into the center and then spray it and do all these different things with it, right, and to help out the team. And Matip has that ability a little bit too. Fabinho doesn't really, but it's not something that you ever really ask him to do until all of a sudden now he's a center back, right? So when you take Jordan Henderson out of the equation of that being that engine in there, then you've got to have someone creative coming out of the back. When did we actually kind of look okay? End of the first half, beginning of the second, when Trent was doing what? Pinging all these diagonals, getting up the pitch, doing different things. He suddenly became a creative force for like 10 to 15 minutes, his best part of the game. But we didn't have it otherwise. Yeah. And I just felt like taking the engine out of the midfield, Trent struggling as he has been because he's been playing like shit lately. And then you've got not much else. There really wasn't much coming from anywhere. And then when the front three did get it, they're either crowded out or ineffective. They just haven't been. Mo has been wasteful. Sadio couldn't get on the ball cleanly at any point in the day. When he did, he just didn't have it. You've got to get some creativity in from somewhere else. I just felt like taking Henderson out of the midfield was a massive mistake. When we look at these two kids, I don't understand why they can't play this game. They seem perfectly good choices for this opponent.
There must be some other maybe like a medical thing where maybe
they were both on the bench. That was the other bench.
Yeah, they was on the bench.
We've seen
this crap about the FA Cup. Because you'd also said in the same sentence, we don't give a shit about it. So you can't say, well, they got to play in the FA Cup, but we don't give a shit about it.
No, and the thing is,
I don't know. I'm speculating. I'm making multiple speculation threads. It's like like I'm like a meteorologist for a hurricane. That's one thing.
All right, one thing I'll say maybe in defense is that potentially you could say that this was a kind of game where you don't mind not having a center back because going into it, you would expect Liverpool are going to have a lot of possession, and they did. Of course, it was after Southampton scored that they decided that they just didn't retreat. But this was absolutely a game that goes along the trend of you're going against a low block side, try to figure it out. You would think having an extra midfielder rather than a defender would be kind of a move, but I mean, the thing is, it simply didn't work. Where I'm not saying that like that's what the thought process was, but the way the game shook out, I mean, having an extra center, like having the real center backs in there, even though they're the kids, I don't think that changes anything for the positive.
But
I
it does
mean,
because it allows you to bring Jordan Henderson out.
Yes, that's the thing that I think we can definitely get to is that
Look,
Henderson being in the midfield would have made that game better. But
So-
as far as like him being at the back, it didn't necessarily hurt them.
I'm not saying he was a detriment back there.
No.
And
And
my point
I just want to make
about
sure, like, everyone kind of gets
my point about the
point.
United game is like maybe he doesn't want to put that on Reece, right? Because that is one of the biggest games of the season.
Mm-hmm.
It is them, is a big rivalry match, and he knows that we need to win it, right? So maybe he doesn't want to put it on Reece, or maybe he doesn't want to put it on Phillips. But you're not going to throw Jordan back there just for the first time, whatever, willy-nilly against United, right? So is this like a decision because I got to get him minutes back there? That's the only thing I don't know. But even still, I'd still disagree with the decision because we needed to win this game too. And this is an opponent that is only now 5 points back or 3 points. I don't know. They're in sixth
place,
now.
or I want to say.
So this is not like some shite team. This isn't like a Newcastle or some low block side. Typically, it's a team in the top half of the table that will play football. I don't think they would have parked the bus against us necessarily. They would have tried to have their portion of the game. They usually do.
No.
Just they got the goal so early that it allowed them to just kind of go, okay.
And by the way, to their credit, they didn't just stop playing after they got the goal. They did keep playing for the first 20, 30 minutes of the game. That was the most entertaining football we've seen for Liverpool in the last month because it wasn't a team that was just like, we're going to put 20 people behind the ball. Like they actually still tried to play for at least that first third of the game.
Yeah.
So the one thing I want to interject here is, I mean, I had that same thought that Darius had, where it's like maybe the idea here is that you're going to have so much of the ball that you don't even need the guy sitting back there. However, the problem is you need your second center back next to your other center back in case there's a counterattack. So even if that is the idea that you're going to dominate possession, Henderson doesn't have the freedom to go into places, and Andrew brought this up, that he's normally occupying to play the interchanges that the team is used to having. Like, the reason the left side was so effective, once Andrew brought this up and you were talking about it, was because it was the same three players that are used to playing with each other in the midfield on that side. On the right-hand side, however, it was Ox, who is nothing like Hendo, who likes to go and get behind the byline, just like Mo and just like Trent. So it's three players all trying to run to the same spot of the pitch, and no one sat there at the top of the box to interchange with. And so maybe if he was allowed to explore into those areas, it might work. But even at the end, or even at the beginning of the second half, when we were dominating possession, that just wasn't the case. He had to sit back there. It's not that he was shit, but it took away all of the great things that he brings to the team. Like, he wasn't able to do any of the good things that he brings to the team. He had to be relegated to doing very average things for the benefit of the setup or whatever, but it didn't bring the normal tools he has. And so, not to get hung up on the team selection thing and to move forward with this, and we touched on it a little bit, possibly Henderson not being there is an issue. However, since he's come back from injury, he's been pretty poor. Darius, what is eating not Gilbert Grape, but Trent Alexander-Arnold?
I just watched the game today, and I was so disappointed because Trent and Sadio might be my two favorite players, and they were both garbage by their standards. Trent was, like you mentioned, I did kind of forget the fact that he did have a decent portion of the game toward the middle when, things were really moving and Liverpool were dominating possession and getting into the final third. But it has been a part of a longer trend for Trent where it's not coming off. Those passes ahead where he unlocks, where you get that pass ahead of the back line and then sets up either Mo or Sadio, rarely, but sometimes it'll be Bobby at the end of it. You don't see that. Those low crosses, they're not coming off. Even he was taken off a corner duty in the last game against West Brom, and I feel like that's kind of
be the first man.
Right. It's gotten to the point where it's just like, this doesn't look like the same player of what we come to expect. And when you go through it, it's like you do have to kind of ask that question, like, what's going on? Is it the injury? Is it getting the rhythm back? And I mean, the obvious answer is, well, none of us are going to have that answer. We don't know, but it is disturbing to see that it's like he's going through like a sophomore slump type of scenario where he's off it just a little bit, but he's off it. And it's been enough matches in a row where you do have to ask, like, okay, is it time to maybe say, dude, you could just take this game off? let's get Nico in, bring you on in the second half or something like that. Because whatever it is, Trent's going through something right now. Like it might not even have anything to do with football. It could just be general
Heartbreak,
state
baby.
of the world, man. Like
Heartbreak.
you never know. You never know, because I mean, obviously,
Popstar broke up with him.
these are. Yes.
I got the ITKs on this shit.
But no, but I mean, obviously, these are human beings. These are men, and Trent being a young man, I mean, makes it even more
Heartbreak.
high strung and emotional, playing for his boyhood club and all that. But it's just whatever's going on for him, man. It just don't look like the same kid that we're used to seeing, and that's what's so disappointing, because we know if he was a fraction of what he normally is, Liverpool would have won, if not just today, probably several other games over this last stretch. He doesn't need to be great, just average. And the fact that he's been bad and it's coincided with that run of results, it's just like, man, it makes your stomach turn, because it's just like, dude, we know you're so much better than this. This isn't you. This is just whatever you're going through. But man, it looks bad right now.
The big stat today was he lost the ball 36 times, which is more than any other player in any other match in the whole Premier League this season. And that is, when you consider the type of players that play on some of the teams that lose the ball in the Premier League on a regular basis, that's a mind-blowing stat.
Those are teams that can't get out of their own half till they give it away, and they don't give it away 36 times.
Exactly, right? So David, what is it? Getting back into form from the injury? Is it the last 2.5 years really have been hyper speed, and he is a young man and needs maybe a mental break? Do we bring in Nico? What's the solution here for Trent?
Unfortunately, I think you just have to play him through it. I think it's a combination of things, right? I think that you saw with City last season that going at that breakneck pace that we've talked about over and over again, 3 years in a row, is a really difficult thing to do. The next piece is that he's only 21 years old. So he's done this at a very young age. He's probably struggling a bit mentally just from the kind of wear and tear of it all. But then also, when your confidence is low and things are going bad, it's hard enough if just you're the only one struggling. Like, even if you're playing like shit, but the team's getting the results, you can kind of work yourself through it a little bit easier. But another part of this is the pressure, right? He's a Scouse kid, and he's also realizing right now just how important he is to this team. Because, as Darius said, his run of form and these results have coincided, and is that a coincidence? I don't think that it is. I think that the whole team, if you look at the way their body language is right now, right? The last 3 games, there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of like not reacting well to adversity. All that confidence and that swagger that we saw them have last year, you don't see that shit right now. I'm sorry. When West Brom score, we did not react well. As the game got more frustrating against Newcastle, we did not react well. Today, we go down a goal, and there was legit an entire match to make it up, and we couldn't figure it out. So it's not like last year, you'd just see them working through it, right? Like, they'd be presented with a problem and they'd just work their way through it and somehow come up with an answer in the end. And that's how they'd win it. But that's not there right now. But a part of that is you've got all these creative pieces that can unlock answers for you. But when one of your really creative pieces is just not bringing a lot to the table, it limits your options, and it creates a sense of panic in everybody else. Because everybody else, we said it in the text, who wants to step up and be the guy? Like, nobody would just shoot the fucking ball. This is like, shoot the thing toward the goal. That's it. You know?
I believe the quote is, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott, right? But
I think it's a confidence thing. I think it's he's tired, and I think it's it's the pressure. He's starting to realize how crucial he is to the team.
Yeah, I would argue you said one of the most creative, probably the most creative, like the creative piece in the whole team. A lot goes through Trent going forward. It's why they attack us on that side going the other way, because he's always up there creating. But Andrew, is it just one kiss that he needs, or what's actually what's going on?
I need to call her. I need to call Dua Lipa. I need to tell her to like take him back. Everything will be all right. Right now he's crying.
You saw the what's the episode with him and Robbo? He told his mom
that was bullshit. That was bullshit.
okay.
Of course,
what's going on?
He is a child.
Me and Dua Lipa are like friends. What are you talking about?
So Dua Lipa breaks up with him, and now he can't play football.
No, yeah, basically, yeah. You know how it is. You ever gone through a breakup so hard, like you can't even like breathe straight, like you can't even, like you don't even know how to use a fork and knife.
What happened
like,
was he stayed up too late playing Super Mario Kart or something. Like that's what happened.
and or he's playing video games.
He's a
I don't know,
child.
maybe on like Cyberpunk.
Listen,
I
the
don't know.
biggest insult to his performance is that with Liverpool trailing and needing a goal, Klopp took him off for Milner.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
pretty.
Oh, and I was like, you know
And
what?
here's
That's probably
here's the
big
thing.
call.
Was that the
Here's the
first
thing.
sub?
I like
Second,
David's point
second.
about him being, you know, maybe he needs a mental break, and that's fine. And that's why
The
hopefully
2
he doesn't
weeks.
play on Friday.
I don't think
So
he
he
will.
had almost 2 weeks to just chill. And then again, I'm not a coach at the highest level, but I'm assuming if you're a coach at the highest level, number one, you like to talk to your players and all that good stuff. Maybe you have them see a shrink. Excuse me, who knows? But more importantly, you have that time to do training ground stuff. So I'm assuming that's what's going to happen. Like, you know what I mean? Like the team that's going to play Villa, maybe, you know, you give it to the Portuguese coach and be like, all right, you work with these hoes over there on the left.
These
And then I'm going to
hosts.
work with the Man United team
At
over
least he
there
didn't
on the
call them
right.
bitches this time.
Yeah,
That's an
these
improvement.
hoes.
You go work with these hoes over there.
Shaq
Players.
and these hoes.
I've been drinking, kids.
But to your point though, like having sometimes it's a little we don't talk about it enough, but like having that mental break does make a difference. And you
Listen,
think about it.
wait,
Think about it,
Darius, I'll
though.
tell you. Wait.
I mean, with normal
not,
work, like go
not that
ahead.
I'm an elite player or nothing. I'm not. But I just took 2 weeks off from my job. I'm ready to go.
And
I
that's
haven't
that was exactly my point, though. If
Yeah.
it comes down to it, for like if you need to take not just over Christmas, but like a normal time when you don't have a bunch of people who are pulling at you every which way. You got to spend a bunch of money to take care of folk. You got to go do these other obligations. When you have time to yourself, because as a footballer, you don't really get that. Anytime that you have off is time that you're still around other people. So at 21, 22 years old, when do you get to just be yourself? I mean, obviously, it's
Trent
not-
needs to go on a vacation with
Nah,
Mama.
You saying vacation, dude? I'm saying,
No.
how about a day where you could just like sleep to noon, not get out of bed? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, go to that day spa, baby. There's probably a Groupon.
Play Jota
Yeah.
in FIFA for like a whole
play
night.
Jota and FIFA, right? Like, just
Yeah.
have a day where it's like you could wake up and just not have to do anything, because that obviously comes into play for us normal people. So you can only imagine for a professional athlete that they would need that probably even a little bit more than the rest of us. So
To continue
I
think that's something that could do him some good, to be honest.
the sitcom references, he needs to treat himself, right?
Treat yourself.
I didn't even know about all this stuff about the breakup. They got rub and tugs in Liverpool.
Dude, no, I'm joking.
No, he's joking,
That
dude.
was
Don't
completely
listen to Andrew.
I'm making things up.
Yeah, he's got
God, this is how rumors get started.
Yeah.
Come on.
Anyways,
better.
it is very true that Trent
Well, Dua Lipa, if you want to hang, let me know.
just one kiss, right? Anyways, while it's true that Trent has been struggling himself, what is also true is over the last three matches, the front three just seemingly have decided they will not score, and then starting at the back end of Newcastle and today have decided that they will just not shoot the ball. They will not shoot the ball. There was time. Sadio Mane has the ball at the back post laid on, and instead of trying to put it on the net, is blasting it across the goal. Bobby Firmino has a cross from the corner pinged in at him and tries to control it first before shooting it.
Oh no,
No.
that hit his thigh though.
But
You talking about
because
that
he
one?
was trying to control it. He wasn't
I'm
trying
sure. No, I'm gonna give the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure it was just like an awkward.
No,
thing.
man. The ball's coming at you. You either shape to shoot or you shape to control it, and that man shaped to control it. You can
He
go
could have
watch
just
the-
tried to hit it hard, close his eyes.
Exactly.
Stick a foot at it.
Yeah, a one-timer.
Stick a
He
foot
tried
at
to
it.
control that thing. So he
Again,
could take it
mental
down.
lapse. I'm telling you, mental
Mo
lapse.
gets the ball.
Sacho one totally blew my
Listen,
mind.
Liverpool players, if you need Adderall, I know a guy.
Mo gets him set up on his
Oh,
left
right.
foot
On
from
his
from
chest.
Mane and tries to pass it back to him. The only one who was willing to shoot was Thiago, and they never got through the 10,000 bodies in the box. I
Well,
get
and
that.
we're like that's the other thing too is like we're either trying these like impossible passes or impossible shots. Like
Yeah.
we can't. It's either we pass it into the back of the net or do something astonishing.
Yeah.
Those are the only two options it seems.
And then like Trent's one-on-one with the keeper and takes the extra touch and tries to cross it. Robbo's one-on-one with the keeper and
then
takes
he
the extra
definitely tries
touch.
to cross it.
Yeah, like if that's a shot, Jesus Christ, Robbo, you're 6 yards out. Put it on a frame.
Whose was worse, his or Sadio's? Where Sadio just blasted.
No,
He was
the
so
one
close,
where
and I'm
he
like, wait,
hit it?
how did he miss that bet? And I was like, wait, was he trying to center that?
Yes.
Was that a pass into the crowd? What the? Like that was the one that just got me. I was like,
No, the one where Sadio is like alone and he tries to scoop it over Forrester, but then just like scoops it into row 19.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The other thing is you talked about frustration, and I love Sadio Mane, and I think he's amazing, but far too often he lets shit right backs get into his head to the point where he tries to go down a bit too much. I think we'll have a little talk about it. I think there's a couple of shouts. However,
Klopp mentioned that after the game.
He lets players get into his head sometimes, man, when he gets frustrated.
I don't know about all that, but he's a very, I would say this, he's a very passionate young man. And
hey, Rob
I love that
Holding.
shit. But if he was on my team, I'd be like, yo,
play.
Next time.
Exactly. He reminds me of Suarez in a lot of ways in that sense. Where which part of it I like it because if the rest of it, like I think the rest of the team were trying today, there was a sense of urgency and so on. But there's those performances probably Fulham away where like everyone is just abysmal. But Mane, he's such a street fighter, so to speak. If you guys want to sponsor us, please check us out at no. But he's such a street fighter, no, seriously, that like he'll never kind of he'll always go to the death, so to speak, right? So I like that he wears his emotions on his sleeve and he puts effort to the max at all times. But you're right. That can be detrimental, hence why he's like, he's a bit fiery, I would say.
Yeah.
He's the guy to get a yellow card with a ref, or get in a fight or, Mane's over the years, he's been lucky not to get red cards when he's like stepped on somebody or whatnot.
He's lashed out a couple times. And
yeah, exactly. So to me, it's not surprising that he behaved that way because the ref, what's his fucking name?
Mariner.
Yeah, there you go. That guy. He didn't, he got nothing all game. And whether it was a pen or whether it was a foul on the outside of the box or whether whatever, it was just kind of absurd.
Reffing.
Yeah. I mean, but before we get onto that, I want to let Darius have a little time to talk about her front three and what do you think? Is it like Mo, for instance, had so many chances against Newcastle that he could have just buried it. Now, if I feel like he just doesn't want to take the chances because he feels like he messed it up or something. And Bobby's obviously always looking to play the ball off rather than shoot. And then was it just the perfect storm of everyone being in their heads?
Dude, if I didn't know any better, and I hope this is not the case for anyone, but especially for Mo, it would sound like they've been listening to our dumbass fans, to be honest. Like, it looked like one of those games where Mo was like, oh, well, they're going to get mad at me if I take all the shots, so I need to start passing and trying to get other people involved. And it looked like one of those games where when the ball came to Bobby, he's trying to do a little bit too much. And Sadio was like, I've got to embarrass this dude. And it's like, it was one of those games where everyone in the front three, it was just like they made the decision on what they were going to do rather than reading the situation. And that's where sometimes it is like, look, internet trolls can get to you because, again, these are human beings. I hope that's not the case because I wouldn't want to say what undid the performance. Mo, he was going through the comments. He saw that people say he doesn't pass enough. So
yeah,
like, I hope that's not the case. But that's what it kind of looked like. Whereas like a couple of times I'm like, yo, why are you not taking that first time? Or how about where he was offside in the end, but where the ball comes over, he is one-on-one with the keeper and he tries to go around him rather than just smashing it at dude's face. Like, it's stuff like that where I'm just like, you're thinking too much. And if there's any one thing that I've learned about football is that if you are a goal scorer and if you are a striker, it's all instinct. It has nothing to do with what's going on up here once the ball comes to your feet. Now, obviously, everything leading up to it, how you make your run, timing, all that kind of stuff, sure. But as far as just scoring goal, the act of putting the ball in the back of the net, it's just knowing what to do, and then your body takes over. And they got in their own heads for whatever reason. So it just looked like one of those games where, Banter FC won, Liverpool 0. I don't know.
Yes. All the Liverpool forwards are shit. They're not like, we're not mentality monsters anymore, which is kind of fair. I feel like David talked about it. They didn't have the same desires they have But yeah, it's
I'm
just
going
weird.
through our WhatsApp, and people are talking about how Chelsea and Leicester and all these other the teams
I don't
that
wanna go off the
Liverpool
rails.
need to be like Chelsea. That's what people are saying right now. I'm like,
Oh my
Chelsea
God.
just got
Okay.
destroyed at the weekend. What are you talking about?
We'll get there at the end.
People
Jesus,
need
we'll
to
get
just
Yeah, well, we're about to
Oh,
get
my
there.
goodness.
We're closing in. Before that, the fix. How do we fix this? David said it. Klopp said it. Post-match interview. We just have to play through it. As terrible as that sounds right now, you probably don't want to watch this team play through that for another 2 minutes, let alone 90. David, that's the solution, right? We just got to get through it, right?
Well, yes and no, but I think because the no part, I think you've seen this, you've watched the game long enough to know this. I think sometimes things go a little bit stale on you, and you just need to like switch it up a little bit. You need something to refresh you, right? You got to move this guy over to the opposite side. You got to put this guy over here just to make him do something different. Stop thinking about what he wants to do. Just make him think about the game, focus on his role, whatever it is. I've been saying it. Maybe it's time to get away from the 4-3-3 a little bit because it's become a little bit of a formula. Everybody's got their little way to play against it. Everybody's seen it multiple times now. The whole league has seen it at least twice, pretty much at this point. And I just feel like maybe, remember a couple of years ago when we put Mo in the center and he just went off on some goal streak?
Bournemouth.
Right.
That's when he scored that hat trick against Bournemouth.
Exactly. And like for Bobby, maybe just going back to playing the number 10 role again in the center behind the center forward, creating for him and then playing off of him.
So are you saying 4-2-3-1?
That was
that was kind of the plan with Jota, and then he got hurt.
No, but that was our introduction to Shaq. Was the 4-2-3-1 against Southampton?
And when he came on today, I thought that's what he was bringing him on for, right? Like because Ox was kind of drifting up while the other two sat deep. I thought for sure he's going to put Shaq on for that, right? And then it just really didn't come together. And if anything, I thought, well, if that's not the concrete plan, you bring on Minamino, right?
Yeah,
that's what I would have thought, but I don't know. I think maybe it's just time to switch it up a little bit. Just get everybody into doing something a little bit different. Keep them fresh. Keep their brains kind of entertained. I'm not saying that they've checked out, but that performance was not what we've seen over the last 2 years, and I feel like part of that comes down to maybe they're not fully engaged.
No,
I don't know. No, I'm not saying that they're not trying. Like they're there, they're trying.
No.
But what I'm saying is like
I think.
You get to a point
we're
where
spoiled
you're so
right
comfortable
now.
in a system. No, listen to me for a second.
That's very true, Andrew. Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead, David.
This
Sorry
isn't about being spoiled. I'm not. Look, I've been through worse.
Not you. No.
No, what I'm saying is you get to a point in a system where you become so comfortable with your role that you start to kind of venture out and do other things. You start to think, well, let me try to do this instead, or do this. And maybe you try to do too much, or maybe you actually limit yourself in some ways because you become so familiar with this one thing. But then when the manager suddenly throws you into a slightly different position and challenges you to do something new, it just changes your perspective again, makes you look at the game in a different way again. And I just think there's something refreshing about that they maybe need. And you don't want to be the same forever, right? When he came in, we were 4-2-3-1. We evolved to a 4-3-3. We've now been there for 3 seasons. Maybe it's time to evolve again.
The only thing I would say against that, though, it's not because what I'm about to say let's see how it sounds. So I'm looking at the way how Barcelona did what they did for the period between 2006-07 and 2015-16. The reason why they were who they were was because they didn't veer away from the way they played. They played tiki-taka. When they were down, they played tiki-taka. When they were up, they played tiki-taka. When they were going up against a low block side, they played tiki-taka. When they were playing open football, they played tiki-taka. They dedicated their entire existence to that style, and it worked out for them. So I don't know if that's necessarily what Klopp and Liverpool can do or even need to do. But that's my only thing. It's like you do get to a point where it's like, yes, people have seen what we were doing. How do we reinvent ourselves? Well, do they need to reinvent themselves, or do they just need to execute and be better? I mean, because that's on the table too, I think.
But again, so it's not necessarily like for tiki-taka gegenpressing, right? So it's
like completely different systems. All I'm saying is a commitment to the style. That's all I'm saying.
that's your style, though, right?
Right.
But we're a gegenpressing. That's the thing. It doesn't mean you're going to abandon that just because you change the shape. You're just going to play it in a different shape and in a different way, which is going to create different spaces.
Fair enough.
Which is going to force other teams to rethink the way that they defend you and the way that they defend spaces. That's the only reason I would say maybe it's worth trying out. Let's just see what happens. You know, like you're going to go 4-3-3 against Man United because it's this big game and you don't want to change the game plan necessarily. But in this 10 days off is a great time to start brainstorming and thinking about different ways you can play. And how do you get Thiago and Henderson and Wijnaldum and Ox and all these other players?
Thiago at the 9, Mo in the 6.
So,
you know?
well,
but how do you get those guys all on the field together doing the things that they do well that make them great?
what I would say this and not like blame injuries all the time, but I think the way you refresh a system is you bring in new talent that's world class. And unfortunately for us, all those guys that we brought in, Shimikas, I don't know, Shimikas is world class.
I was going to say, you started with Shimikas?
Shimikas gets COVID and can't play and then gets injured. They're like, what? Okay. Yeah. Then we have Jota, and we saw with how refreshing that was. As Andrew likes to point out, he's going to score 40 goals a season.
At least.
It was refreshing. It was switching it up. Thiago was supposed to come in and, cycle the midfield up a little bit, and he got hurt seemingly for half a season. We thought it was going to be like
3 hours of football this year.
Right? And so like some of the ways that you wanted to refresh it got blown up in your face before you could even really refresh it. And so I do want to see us do different formations because we're really good at doing a 4-2-3-1. We were really good doing it. We played a diamond at some point under Klopp, and we're really good doing it. Klopp had Gini Wijnaldum and a center back Brighton a few years ago. Like we switched around before. We've shown a tactical flexibility. Given your center back situation, maybe it is the way to go, but maybe in a time where players are moving around so much, you need the familiarity. Andrew, how do you fix it?
Get to work, baby. That's it.
I knew you were going to say it.
He says
get to work.
gassers. 6 a.m. guys, we're running up hills.
Listen, it's really not that. It's not rocket science.
No, if you want to punish them, you put them in the FA Cup match.
What? Who?
I said if you wanted to punish them, you start everyone on Friday.
No, that's not. I mean, maybe the medical people, maybe he would.
Oh, listen, Andrew already told us. Those bitches over there with the Portuguese guy, and these guys are going to work. These guys are going. Oh yeah, sorry, these hoes. My bad. These hoes are with the Portuguese guy.
He made them
first
slightly
team.
classier.
Well, you know what I'm talking about? That Portuguese guy that took over.
No, yeah.
Anyway, don't
like,
matter.
These guys getting to work.
Yeah, Mo or Mane better get everyone in early into the gym. I want like them doing half a training session before breakfast. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, all jokes aside though, yeah, that's what I imagine. And again, to David's point of like maybe they switch it up. Now they have the time to do that.
Exactly.
They're going to get to work.
Perfect time.
Yeah.
This is the perfect time to do that. Now, mind you, do they do it against United? Probably not, because it's a big game, this and that and the other, and you're at home.
Here's my question. Whatever happened to the managers that pulled out the fucking rabbit out of the hat on big games? That used to happen all the time. It's like, holy shit, Arsene Wenger has decided to play Thierry Henry as a center back today. It's crazy.
Yeah, no.
Just like
we have that. No,
we have 6.
No. We have a person
that does Trent Alexander-Arnold against Man United.
We have a person that does that. His name is Fraudiola. He does that against semi-final against Leon. Like a dumbass.
No, but that's something different. You're talking about what he'll do is he'll take someone who is like, this is a pretty terrible matchup, and put him in that matchup.
Yeah,
he'll experiment with what the tried and true, so to speak. I don't think Klopp will do that. I think it's something. Again, I don't know. I really don't know, because if I knew the fucking answer, I'd be a damn coach, right?
Exactly. I think that's the ultimate answer.
How
do you fix Liverpool?
Everyone.
Ask the smart people.
I know. Okay. So I can speculate.
Yeah, exactly.
My speculation.
Yeah, that's what this is. We're all speculating here.
I can speculate and say,
are you folks listening to this? Go ask Klopp.
Huh? No. Sometimes I know shit. Sometimes I don't know shit. And right now I'm saying I don't know shit.
I'm giving away game, guys. We don't know anything.
You don't know anything. And what I'm saying is, ponte a pila. You got to get to work. That's it.
I know. I agree with you, though. I do think that this is a period of time where it's like you can't blame the congestion of the fixtures. This is now your opportunity to really dig in, figure out what you're made of, look at all the parts that you have available, and make it happen. Like, this is now the time where you can kind of go through that. This is as healthy as you're going to be all year. So let's get it.
If we are, go ahead, David. Sorry.
I was gonna say, is maybe the fix just something as simple? Remember when he was at Mainz? Was it he'd drop him off on an island and just leave him? Play Lord
He's
of the
basically
Flies
done that
for
the last couple of years. Like
He should
over
drop
COVID
them-
restrictions.
something like that. Do they
can't
need
really
like
do
a
it this year.
team bonding moment?
You should drop him off at Goodison Park and say, "Look at this shit." Okay.
Could be
That's,
worse.
that's like being on an
wait,
island.
but in our next video, I'd like to point out some things that maybe.
Oh
we need to
no,
go
no,
back.
no! There's no next video, Andrew. Finish your final thoughts, and we're wrapping it up. Okay.
Are
Give
we
me your
ready?
final thoughts on the match.
You have
Tell
a
me what.
minute. Then he needs.
Give me your
Oh
final
no,
thoughts.
no,
Hurry
I
up,
wasn't
talk,
going
let's
to
go.
the match. I was going to more talk about the league and how.
Oh no!
it
See,
will be all right.
we'll talk about that in the future. For everyone out there, I'll just finish it like this, real quick. The match was shit. It wasn't the Liverpool's finest moment, right? If you are saying we need to be more like this team or that team, or United are in a better position, please see yourself out. Please have a word, have a sit down with yourself and chillax. Liverpool, at present moment of recording, are top of the league. Even if United win, we have a chance to go to home Anfield and beat them on a patch of grass we haven't lost on in many years, that they haven't beaten us on.
Liverpool are still top. I'm still chilling. I'm more upset that I ain't got my STIMMY yet.
So listen, the match was shit.
Where my
Hopefully-
STIMMY at, bro?
It's just a
figure it
bad
out.
patch of form. I'm just upset about.
Oh,
like,
it's been terrible to
the
watch. It's been
mentality of it.
horrid
The
to
way-
watch.
The way they look. I guess the
Yeah.
football lacks something. That's all.
But as Andrew
They'll come
says,
back,
they're going to get to work. I'm Jordan.
David.
Andrew,
He's
Oh,
Andrew.
shit,
I'm Darius.
until next time, it's going to get better. At the end of the storm is a
We
golden
gonna be
sky.
all right.
Rest in peace to Gerry Marsden. Up the Reds.